In the city that never sleeps, where billboards shine brighter than the stars, there lived a painter named Julian Moreau, a man who once believed that light could save the darkness. He used to paint with passion. Now, he painted for money. The colors he once used to express his soul had turned into the language of the market. He who once painted for churches now painted for whiskey, cars, and perfume. But each night, when the neon lights dimmed and silence returned to the streets, Julian found himself standing in the shadow of his own emptiness, where no color felt true enough to light the dark within. This story begins in winter, when Julian received the biggest contract of his career, and also when he began to lose himself. Julian Moreau was born in a small town near Lyon. As a child, he was mesmerized by light, the way it poured through church windows and danced across stone floors, the way dawn brushed gold upon the walls of his little studio. He left home with nothing but an old brush and a dream to touch the world. Years later, Julian became one of New York's top advertising artists. He was the man behind the giant billboards that crowned Times Square. His paintings made people stop and stare. Money came. Fame followed. He was invited to lavish parties, praised by the press as the painter of modern light. Yet deep down, Julian knew he was no longer the artist he once was. His creations no longer came from faith or feeling, only from contracts and numbers. One night, while finishing a diamond ad, Julian caught his reflection in the studio mirror, a tired, hollow face he barely recognized. The brush trembled in his hand. He realized the light he had been painting was not real. It was the light of deceit. One winter night, after a long day's work, Julian saw a young woman sitting by the subway stairs. Beside her lay a small paint box and a few half-finished paintings. Her name was Amelia, a street artist painting for enough money to buy paint and food. Julian stopped, because in those clumsy little paintings, he saw something he had lost: sincerity. They talked. Amelia smiled and said, "I don't have clients, but I have people who stop and smile." That sentence struck Julian silent. He bought all her paintings, not out of pity, but because he could feel the faith in every brushstroke. As he walked home, the lights of the billboards around him seemed pale and empty, as if they had lost their meaning. Another night, Julian passed through a park and heard a trembling violin. An old blind man sat beneath a tree, playing with broken strings. The sound was raw, imperfect, but deeply human. Julian listened quietly, then dropped a bill into the man's wooden box. The blind man asked, "What do you do for a living?" Julian replied, "I paint." The man smiled. "I can't see your paintings, but if you paint with your eyes and not your heart, then you're no different from me." Those words cut through Julian like a clean brushstroke through thick old paint. That night, he returned to his studio, opened his unfinished billboard painting, and for the first time in years, erased the brand logo from it. He began to paint again, not for anyone, not for anything, but for God within him. Weeks later, Julian accepted a contract to paint a massive billboard in the city center. He hesitated, but under financial pressure, he agreed. Every day as he worked, a newspaper boy would stop to watch from the sidewalk. One afternoon, the boy asked, "Mister, why don't you paint the real sky up there?" Julian chuckled, "Because they pay me to paint what they want to sell." The boy whispered, "But if you paint what God wants, maybe people will remember to look up at the real sky." The innocence in that voice struck him like prophecy. Julian looked up at the massive white wall before him, and in that moment, he knew this was his last chance to choose his true master. The next morning, when the cover cloth was lifted, the entire city gasped. Instead of a product ad, there was a colossal mural of two human hands reaching toward the light, with small words beneath. "No one can serve two masters." Part 3. The Return of Light. Julian was fired. The company sued him for breaching the contract, but instead of fear, he felt peace. For the first time in years, he saw true light. Not from billboards, but from the morning sun spilling through his studio window. Amelia visited him. The newspaper boy came too. They painted together, laughed, shared a loaf of bread and warm tea. He had lost fame, but found faith. One day, while cleaning his attic, Julian found his very first paintbrush. Dry, old, yet still carrying the memory of who he once was. He hung it on the wall, beneath a small wooden plaque engraved with the words, "Light does not belong to those who sell it, but to those who believe in it." On the streets of New York, among the countless dazzling billboards, there still stands one blank white wall, the place where Julian once painted his final work. They say the mural was erased long ago, but some nights, under the neon glow, people claim they can still see the faint shimmer of two hands reaching toward the heavens. Perhaps that light does not come from paint. Perhaps it comes from a soul that has finally found its true master.